Welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Intelligence Podcast, our Leaders in Legal series. My name is Christina Denali, your host for today's episode, and I'm really excited to introduce our guest today. This is going to be an awesome conversation. So without further ado, my guest is Lee Rudin, who is a phenomenal personal injury and car accident lawyer based out of New Orleans. He is the founder and owner of Rudin Law. And again, very excited to have you here today, Lee.
Thanks, Christina. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So I always like to start, I want to get into your background. So I want you to share whatever you're willing to share. And also, what inspired you to become a personal injury lawyer?
Sure. So I am originally from New Jersey. I came down to New Orleans to attend Tulane. My first day of freshman orientation was the day before Hurricane Katrina. Just past 20 years anniversary of Katrina. Technically, it's probably my 20-year anniversary here in New Orleans, although we evacuated for the first couple months after the storm. I ended up going to school up in New York for the first semester, then came back to New Orleans January of '06, and I've never left. Went to Tulane, graduated from there in '09, ended up going right into Tulane Law, graduated from Tulane Law in '12, and as I tell people, the gumbo got in my blood, and I'm here.
I'm going to say, I have to be honest, I've been to Jersey and I've been to New Orleans a few times, and they're contrastly very different. So,
You say that, but the accents, like the New Orleans accent, has a Jersey, Brooklyn kind of bent to it. Both the Northeast, like the greater New York area, and New Orleans are port cities, right? Port towns. So a lot of similarities with immigrants that came in, like big Italian populations in both places. There's a nice Jewish population here, obviously a huge one up in the Northeast. You name the immigrant population and it's in both places. So the cultures have some of that flavor. So
yeah, love
it's,
it.
I get my taste at home, or at least where I grew up here in New Orleans.
Yeah. Good people, good food, all the good things for sure
That's
there.
it.
Awesome. So the other thing I want to talk to you about, you have a standout brand. That was one of the things that caught my attention when we look for law firm owners to interview on this podcast. And so your brand is really unique, which I love.
Thank
It's
you.
polarizing, if you will. So in marketing, the more polarizing, it's going to stop the scroll. It's going to get people's attention. So very genius from a marketing perspective.
Thank you.
But also, it's one of those things that has that catchiness to it that you can't forget. So I love on your website, it says, stop being polite, and get rude. So tell me about your brand. You're wearing the t-shirt.
Sure.
What made you come up with this, and why Get Rude? What is it all about?
So, Christina, it would be abnormal if you saw me not wearing the t-shirt these days. I joke, like I started this law firm so I could write off my coffee habit and make cool merch. Like that's probably why I did it.
Love it. Okay.
But in all seriousness, so we are in a space that is highly competitive. It is really no different than anything else when you think about marketing, right? The idea is to get people to know who the heck you are. And then obviously they got to choose you down the road, but before they can choose you, they need to know who you are. And in this world we live in where our attention is getting pulled every which way all the time, and we've become so accustomed to scrolling past things, right? Not interested, not interested, not interested. You need to do something to be different. And if, look, I'm a white guy from the Northeast. There's a lot of white male lawyers in the space.
Yep.
So if you're trying to be different and it's not how you look that is different, then you need to do something to grab the attention of the potential new client. For me, it was finding what is kind of my secret sauce, and that's, I'll say, my attitude. Right? I've never shied away from being the spokesperson when I thought something was amiss. So if being bold and saying what you think is how you're going to get people's attention, then the Get Rude brand kind of works.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I love the way you shared that. So I want to unpack that a little bit, because being a marketer and an entrepreneur myself, I see again just the genius of the brand. But I am curious from a layman's person's perspective, because perception is everything. We kind of have a negative connotation around the word rude. So if someone sees that and like get rude, it's like, are you going to get rude with me? Are you going to get rude with the judge, the opposing party? So tell me what the word rude means to you.
Well, how about yes? I'll say yes on all of those things.
Okay.
And I'm gonna answer the question for you, and then I'm gonna give you kind of a little funny anecdote.
Okay.
All right. So I'll start with the anecdote. My daughter goes to public school here in New Orleans. My wife and I grew up as public school kids. New Orleans is a very private school oriented town, but we thought that public school is the way we were raised, and we want our daughter to have a mix of different races and colors and creeds and socioeconomic influences. And the motto of the school is be kind. And my wife, every event is like, hey, you want to sponsor that? You want to sponsor that? I said, I will sponsor anything as long as I can make merch that says be kind, get rude. As long as I can do that, I'll do it. And she said the same thing you said, like, well, is the school going to let you put get rude on something? And I said, how about this? Aren't we trying to teach our young people, our women, minorities, that they got to stand up for themselves? Right? Don't let somebody just tell them the way it is and push them down. We want them to stand on their own 2 feet, raise their hand, and speak up. So maybe that's what get rude means, right? Just don't take the bullshit that someone feeds you for face value.
Yep.
You gotta scrutinize it a little bit. And so in a lawyer, you want somebody to fight for you because you're already behind the 8 ball because you're going up against $1 billion behemoth with all sorts of data and experience and whatever other ammunition that adjuster on the other phone has. Yeah. And you're just somebody who got hit, didn't ask for it, isn't happy, and just needs help. And so my mentality is you need to find somebody who's going to tell the insurance company where to shove it when the time is right. Mm-hmm. And also, be smart about it. So this whole thing, stop being polite, get rude, even just owning a business, I don't have an ego in that sense. This wasn't what I dreamed of doing. I didn't need my name in lights. I was a partner at 2 other law firms. I didn't care about that. It was just about like doing right by people, doing my job well. And so it just so happens that my name works with Get Rude, and that brand I think is pretty sticky. So my name's going to be out there for a long time. But if it was somebody else's name and that's how we had to, market ourselves, so be it. The undercurrent here is you want to be able to get as many people as you can calling you, seeking out your services, so then you can help them. Because you help them, they're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell their friends, and all of a sudden you have this great organic growth. And it won't matter if you got a great brand, but you do shit work, it's not going to matter because your brand is going to get undercut by the performance. So it's great to get them in the door, but you got to deliver when they're here.
Well said. Well said. Wow. Very impressive. So I love the reframe there. You're reframing the word rude and kind of what it means. And it is to stand up for yourself, to have a lawyer stand up for you, to advocate for you. Like you said, so getting rude in the courtroom, what does that mean? Well, it's standing up for your client, and that could be the opposing counsel. It could be whatever. That's so right. I really love that, Lee. I think that's really smart on your part. And it is very sticky. It's very memorable.
Look, you can screw up Rudin. I hear it. Right? I get Rubin, I get Ruden. It's really hard to screw up Rude.
True.
Really hard to screw it up.
True. Awesome. So with that in mind, when we think of a law firm in saturation, like you got done saying, especially in 2025, and especially in personal injury and in a major market. So when you mix all that together, you're thinking, how do I stand out? Well, we've already addressed that. What would be another pillar or thing that you would say is important to build a personal brand in this market?
All right. So if anybody's attending PIMCon next month, then this is going to kind of spoil some of what I'm saying. So turn off the screen now. But the strategy that I've employed and that I think help a brand that is maybe in its infancy like mine is, because we're a new business and a new brand, we address kind of being bold, being different, doing something to stand out in what otherwise is a loud space. I think that going local, get local with your brand, find those people in your community that can be your champions, because they're going to be your loudest unpaid spokespeople. And it could be people that you help. It could also just be people that you build connections with that are decent, So like what we do locally is I sponsor the local independent pro wrestling promotion. Right. So if you look right there, that's an old 90s wrestler that I was a fan of as a kid. But I sponsor these events, and we may have, let's say, anywhere between 8 and 10 events per year. And a lot of the same fans show up, a couple hundred, 1,000, 2,000 people. And I'm there and I give out different T-shirts and different, and we talk, and just kind of building that personal connection with people in a place that I know they are zealously devoted to. Right? If they're going to go to a local independent pro wrestling event in a high school gym or a dive bar, they must really like it.
Yep.
You know, they're not going to the WWE or watching it on TV. So I found something that I thought would be fun to be a part of. It was something that I grew up loving, and I thought that there were people there that could be my potential clients and would probably gravitate towards me because they see that I love the thing they love. So I think getting local and finding that thing that you really can hitch your wagon to, that you can attach your brand to, is a way to really bootstrap it. And then the other part of it, if you're looking just to spend some money, is I think digital advertising, whether it's through social media or now they have streaming TV. If you don't have a war chest to get yourself billboards and TV and radio, which you're going to need a big one if you want to really make a dent, that's a place to grab eyeballs, and it's where people are. Go meet them where they are. They're on their phones all the time. They're on their phones when they're in line at the shopping, at the supermarket, walking past that high value end cap. They're on their phones probably while your TV commercial's playing, and they're on their phones probably while they're driving by your billboard, sad to say.
Yep.
So,
great advice. Great advice.
Yeah.
I think you hit the most important pillars for sure. And it's interesting because being in a car accident down here in Miami, I didn't even think to get a lawyer right away. And it wasn't until I started having really terrible neck pain that I went to a chiropractor. And I had never been to a chiropractor before. And she immediately assesses me and says, you need to call a lawyer, ASAP. And so she recommends this lawyer and ends up being one of the biggest firms in South Florida. And I'm saying, I didn't remember their billboard. I didn't remember anything I saw on social media. But it was the community referral network that they had built in, and then one thing led to another, and boom, of course, now I see them on my social media now because I'm Googling them, right? So to your point, it kind of all works together in that holistic 360-degree approach where, especially in a major market, not only do you need to be everywhere on the internet, but you really need to build those relationships. And it surprises me how many PI firms across the country that I've spoken to are not actually leaning into those personal B2B connections with like auto body shops, chiropractors, towing companies, things like that. But to your point, sports teams, organizations, churches, like the more people that know you and your firm, when they get in an accident, who are they going to call? Right?
Look, we talk about, there's a phrase, right, in the industry, know, like, trust.
Yep.
Right? Referrals are great because all three of those pillars, for the most part, have been handled by the referring person, right? They basically are saying, hey, this is my guy, call him. And as long as the person making that referral is trusted, you have a very easy sale at that point.
Absolutely.
But you can also streamline it if the place that they find you, they're very comfortable with, right? If you're a religious person and they're meeting you at the church or mosque or synagogue that you belong to, inherently they're going to say, oh, this person may be like me, or at least the place that I trust them.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great point. I love it. So I also noticed you have a very nice sized team. And so, you really have established a well-sized, reputable, successful law firm in a short period of time. So congratulations on that. But
Thank you.
Let me ask you, I want to talk about two things. Well, really three: culture, leadership, and recruiting great talent. So let's talk a little bit about leadership. What are the top 2 to 3 pillars that you say are qualities of a great leader? Yeah.
So I think that it comes, well, let's say the first most important thing is treat people like adults, right? Give them responsibility and ideally give them some autonomy over what they're doing. And I'm sure you'll be disappointed at times, but hopefully that gives them the space to grow, take ownership of what they're doing. And, in our space, it's a tough business. So if you find somebody that doesn't give a shit about the clients and is really just trying to punch a clock, it's not going to serve your business well. But if if you explain to them how they're really making an impact, you reward them for doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is taking care of the clients first and foremost, then you really have somebody that's invested in your business. Not exactly the way you are, because no one's going to be, but as much as they can be, considering where they sit in the scheme of things. So I think you got to trust people to be adults, be professionals, take care of business the way they're supposed to, and hopefully more times than not, they're not letting you down.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So that pivots us into culture. So, being a law firm owner, a law firm is a business, right? And so at the end of the day, you are leading the business and you are creating culture in your organization so that you can not only attract great talent, but you can keep great talent. So what have you done to create culture in your business?
So it's kind of funky the way that we're operating because we're a truly global law firm. So some of the folks you're seeing on my team are in all sorts of different countries across this world.
Love it.
Right? We've got team members in the Philippines, in South America, Central America, in Europe, and the internet is a wonderful thing in that sense because you can find great talent all across the world. And what I try to do is make sure that everybody understands that they're valued and that they're treated the same, whether they're down the hall, down the block, or across the world.
Awesome.
So, I know I've heard of firms that have virtual team members and they don't treat them the same. They don't give them the same days off, or that doesn't make any sense to me. If I want you part of the team, I want to treat you like you're part of the team no matter what. And we do some different types of gymnastics in terms of making sure we're staffed on days. Like if it's an American holiday, but it's not the holiday in your country, like let's horse trade. Well, you tell me when you want to be off. And you maybe can cover our phones this day or talk to clients this day when it might be better for the client. But again, just try to treat people on your team like they're people. They have family issues in Nicaragua the same way you got family issues here in New Orleans. And so be cognizant of that and be sympathetic, empathetic.
Totally. And I love that you are doing that because that actually is quite innovative. I would say more and more firms over the last year or two are definitely looking outside of the US to hire, especially based on the position. But I love that because you're right. They have different laws, they have different holidays, they have different benefits, PTO styles, etc. But if you make them feel included, then they are included and they tend to work really hard. The loyalty, the work ethic to me is exceptional. So I love that you're global. That's very cool. Very smart too, because you can tend to get someone that's, again, dedicated, loyal, all the things, hard worker, competent, well-trained, you can pour into them. And, let's be honest, as a business owner, it's a fraction of the cost, So speaking of which, let's pivot over to AI. Okay. So AI is obviously here and it's coming fast and furious. So tell me, number one, your opinion on AI in business and in law.
My opinion is very, very simple. All right. AI is a tool, right? It's no different than having somebody on your team in the sense that if you don't give it the proper instructions and monitor that it's doing the thing you asked, things can fall through the cracks. The quality of what you get might not be very good. So, folks that think it's going to be a stand-in for every single human, not a reality.
Right.
But if you treat it like a very effective tool and you know how to mold it, it can replace man hours that a person might otherwise have contributed. So, we're now in the plaintiff model, contingency fee model where efficiency is key. If I were still an insurance defense lawyer, I'd be shitting my pants because the dozens of hours that paralegals were spending reviewing medical records or that young lawyers were spending performing legal research, I'd be very concerned because these tools are getting really good at doing all the things that humans were doing when prompted right or when developed right. So I love it. I actually was thinking the other day, I need to hire we'll call them maybe a CAO, right? Like a chief AI officer.
Yep.
Just to stay on top of all of the developments and figure out how do you best implement them, because I feel like sometimes I'm either playing whack-a-mole or I'm the cat chasing the laser pointer.
Yep.
There's so much that I want to touch and feel and use, and there's not enough hours in a day to really get wise on all.
Exactly, exactly. I agree with everything you said. And again, I can only add my 2 cents there, which is to your point, I'm seeing a lot of law firm owners either resisting AI, not making the time for it, not investing in it now, and also being very overwhelmed by the amount of tools that are out there. And again, to your point, what tools should I be using in a personal injury firm versus an immigration firm, as an example? Or what should I be using for intake versus marketing versus operations, you know? And at the speed of light in which AI is developing and growing, also, a lawyer cannot possibly keep up with that. I mean, most people can't, right? So that piece is where an AI agency or a consultant could come in and say, these are the tools that you need. We'll custom build them for you. We'll install everything and we'll actually oversee and manage. Because again, to your point, I say it's the 80-20 rule. 80% leverage AI, 20% human touch and oversight.
I like that. And but it's no different, right? AI is no different than any other piece of technology in a firm. Because what ends up happening is it's great to go buy the Ferrari, but if you're not going to use it like a Ferrari, then you might as well have just bought the Chevy.
Yep.
So, I think that like with practice management tools, as long as you have buy-in and you're actually using it in whatever capability you want to use it, then just get started using it. Right? You can use AI in the smallest way and it makes you that much more efficient. You don't have to be using it at 100% capacity. Just use it at 10%. That's 10% better than you were yesterday.
Totally agree. One tool or one thing at a time, one thing that's going to really move the needle in your business, just learn that and focus on that, so that's great advice. I love it, Lee. So let's pivot back over to personal injury. So what is the biggest misconception that you think a consumer, a person would have about hiring a lawyer for an accident?
Sure. I think that a lot of what comes from excellent insurance company lobbying and marketing is that we're just all greedy sharks and we're going to take your money and you're going to be screwed by the lawyer, by this and that. And this is my retort to anybody that questions our integrity as an industry, my integrity as a person, a lawyer, my firm. I said, go get the best offer that the insurance company will give you. Because I promise you, they don't have their names on billboards and skyscrapers because they're Robin Hood, robbing from the rich, giving to the poor. I promise you that's not why they do that. So go get the best offer you can and then bring it to me. And if I look at what your case looks like and I can't do better after I take out my fees, I'm going to tell you to take the offer. But, I joke in some of my advertising, right? They're not your good neighbors. You're not in good hands. It's not. If they were, then we wouldn't have a job and the world would be fair. But what ends up happening is they try to diminish legitimate claims, whether it's an injury claim, a property damage claim. They don't do right by people. And if they did, I'd be very happy. And when every market is getting hit with tort reform and they talk about all the lawyers are doing this to bump up the rates, I said, I'm all for tort reform. Mm-hmm. I am. But I need a guarantee and I need some oversight that when the insurance company gets billions of dollars back in its pocket, that gets passed on to the consumer because I'm one of them too. Yep. Right? But don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining because we've been here before.
Yep. Awesome. So also, what would you advise for the average consumer person who gets in an accident, gets hit? When should they be reaching out to a personal injury law firm?
Call us right away. Call me right away. I don't care if you're at the accident scene. I'm not telling you got to hire me right now, but I'm happy to guide the conversation because you don't even know, unless you're watching all these things I'm putting out on social media or my peers, do you know exactly what you need to do in terms of documenting the scene, gathering information from the other driver? Do you actually know? Because once you're away from that scene, you don't have another crack at it. Do you know how fast security footage might record over? So just because they tell you at the scene that they're accepting responsibility, I can't tell you how many times we get the subsequent phone call and they say, oh no, that wasn't my fault. I didn't run that red light. My light was green. You have them dead to rights, but you don't have it documented. So now you're scrambling. You're trying to find, oh, was there a camera? Can we get a light pattern? Did they record anything? Otherwise, now the insurance company's going to say it's 50-50. When you know full well that's not true. So you call us, call me before. I'll give you all the information you need. I got videos on it. I'll share it with you. Just put it in the bank if, God forbid, you ever need it.
Yep. And we're educating the public right now on this because, again, I will speak from personal experience, but depending on how severe the accident is, particularly a car accident, right, you're very disoriented and you're injured. And so whether it's head injury or what have you, or you're bleeding and you have bones broken, but you are so disoriented, you cannot possibly comprehend and take in everything that's even going on. So, for example, my car is smashed in the middle of the Highway 95, outside of Miami.
Yep.
And I'm standing there and police have already showed up and there's a tow truck and I have no idea what's happening. I don't even remember how I got home. It's just craziness. So when you say that, call us right away, I think that's so important that we need to remember that. Like, everyone watching this, remember that God forbid you are in an accident or a loved one. It's like, call a law firm as fast as you can.
And Christina, I'm going to take it one step further.
Yeah.
Call me before. Call me now.
Okay.
I want to talk to you about changing the coverages on your policy.
Ooh.
Because I'm concerned that you just got hit by somebody. You sounded really banged up. But if you didn't do what you need to do to protect yourself, meaning you have the proper property damage coverage on your vehicle and you have the proper injury protections in the event that other person was either uninsured or underinsured. Because in Louisiana, I'm sure it's the same way in Florida, you got people driving around, they have no business driving around with the insurance coverage that they have, or driving around with no coverage, or driving a vehicle that they're not allowed to be driving.
Yep.
So then you get hit and you're left holding the bag. Fortunately, maybe you have some sort of nest egg, but not everybody's got 25, 30K sitting around to replace a car because they didn't have coverage and the other driver decided they shouldn't be driving. They were driving a vehicle they shouldn't be driving.
Yep. I'm so glad you expanded on that. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm happy to sit with current clients and I say, look, you fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. So let's fix the problem now. Yeah, you came to me and I couldn't unfuck it, for lack of a better phrase. But right now we can fix it if, God forbid, it happens again. Let's do better.
I love it. That's great advice. So thank you for sharing that. So let's actually talk geographically about where you're located, because at the time of recording this session in August, September, we're right on the cusp of going into September 2nd here. There is a Netflix series on Katrina. And so it's interesting you called that out earlier. So tell me about what it's like to be a personal injury lawyer in New Orleans specifically, because I know, again, you take cases outside of just New Orleans city limits, but what has that city, how has it changed? How has it evolved? What would be like anything you would feel like the public should know if they don't live there, if they don't visit there? What do we need to know about New Orleans, Louisiana?
Couple of things. First of all, the roads are awful.
Okay.
I don't know. I grew up in New Jersey. We did not experience like the volumes of potholes. And, in New Orleans proper, some of the streets are very narrow. So if you're driving around in New Orleans, there's a whole variety of landmines you could run into, right? You've got uninsured, underinsured drivers. You've got bad roads. You've got construction every which way. So it goes back to the initial point, which is we have insurance to protect ourselves. Yes, you drive around the road and it's to, God forbid you hit somebody. It's to make sure that if they sue you, you're not coming out of pocket. But in the end, right, we put insurance on our homes. We put insurance on our businesses. We put insurance on our vehicles to protect for the God forbid, for the, what if. So, this city has been harmed by weather more times than we care to share. You mentioned Katrina. I actually watched the first of the 3 episodes last night. Interestingly enough, this city knows all too well how important having proper insurance is, and not necessarily relying on somebody else to cover your back. You got to protect yourself. So that's the one thing I would say. Interestingly enough about being in New Orleans, I like that I have a national network of people, because people come to New Orleans for fun, for business conferences, I mean, for a variety of things. So we get clients that aren't necessarily just locals. I'm helping a gal who was in town for a bachelorette party. She lives in California. It came by referral from a lawyer I know in California. I've had friends from the New York area that have issues down here because people are here and, car accidents, trip and falls, they don't stop just because you're not home. So it's nice to be able to help people in a place maybe they're unfamiliar, even if they're not from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and speaking of, inflation and, cost of living rising, I know personally family members and people who have shaved back or, reduced their coverage with their car insurance to save. So if your car insurance was $200 and you can no longer afford that, you're going through your bills, you're like, let me lower my coverage. What would you say to that person?
It's a tough sell there, Christina, right? Because if the question is, am I spending on the what if, or am I spending on the what I see right in front of me, which is keeping my lights on, or paying for the grocery bills this week? It's a hard sell. I don't know that I have an answer for you. I would convey everything I've already stated, which is the importance of making sure your policies are in place and in the right at the right values for the right types of coverage. Maybe you can shop for a different carrier that might give you a little more coverage for a little bit less. It's hard to get insured in this state. They're going to blame it on the lawyers, but I blame it on a whole variety of things, including terrible roads, too many uninsured drivers. Just there's a variety of reasons why the insurance costs are so high. How about CEO bonuses, right, for these big insurance companies? But if I can get you to try to shave somewhere else and keep your insurance policies where they are, I'd be happier for you. But at the same time, and I say this to my team with respect to clients that come to us asking for advances on their cases.
Yeah.
I said, look, I think that if they didn't need it and they didn't need it from us, right, they hadn't exhausted all other options, calling friends and family and whatever, I don't think they'd be coming to us. But they do. And so you try to have that perspective and try to help where you can.
Yeah, that's a very fair answer. I mean, it's as honest as you can get. It very much depends on the situation too, right? Like, how much does someone drive? Are they commuting an hour to and from work every day? Are you living in Miami versus Nashville, Tennessee versus Knoxville, Tennessee? Like, it just very much depends. But even then, we all know accidents can happen 5 miles from home. So yeah, it's a very tough question to answer. And so in terms of your firm and the different accidents that you handle, what would you say is your favorite case as a lawyer?
My favorite case, or the volume that we see in the firm?
Both.
All right. Look, honestly, I like any case where I can help somebody who is truly grateful for the help. There's so many components of a personal injury case. Our bread and butter is the auto accident, but we handle slip and trip and falls. We have a couple funky type injury cases. I had a burn at a hair salon case. I've got a funky property damage case. We did a bunch of hurricane work when those were prevalent here. We do some marine, offshore injury type cases. We do some boating cases. So, whether you get hurt on land or water, we want to be able to help you. But the best cases for me aren't the ones necessarily where we make the most money. It's the ones where the person really didn't know where to turn in all the facets. They didn't know how they were going to get their car fixed. They didn't know how to get the rental car when they were getting their car fixed. They didn't know what medical provider to go to because either they didn't have health insurance or the health insurance they had was something not so great. Like maybe it's Medicaid and they couldn't get in to see somebody. Being able to open doors for people, whether it's through information or connections or just doing what we do, that is awesome. And then, of course, at the end of the day, being able to hand somebody a check, especially one that they weren't expecting, that might actually make an impact on their life, that's really cool. And that's something you never get to do on the defense side.
Yeah. Well, I love that about you, Lee, because again, from experience, I just know that there's kind of personal injury firms that fall in two different buckets, if you will. One is you have lawyers that are just very aggressive And they're very methodical, tactical, whatever you want to call it, about getting the highest settlement, the biggest payout, no matter what it takes. And sometimes to the expense of the client experience. Okay. And then you have the other bucket, which to me, there's different nuances of it, but the lawyers who genuinely care and show compassion and empathy, which I gathered from you straight away when we talked on the phone. But that is the whole point here, is this is a human on the other side, not a case number, and they have been through something traumatizing, most likely, some worse than others, and their whole life gets turned upside down. They need that quarterback, that person that's going to advocate for them, but also that's going to say, have you thought about this? Are you doing that? Because again, if you're disoriented and not in your right mind, you tend to make poor decisions or bad mistakes. You're not thinking clearly.
Yeah. I think about it in a couple ways, right? They call lawyers counselors. And you think about that word, and sometimes people that are in the position you just described, they just want to be heard.
Yes.
Right? They just want to have somebody to talk to convey the difficulties they're going through. And because we've done this before, right? Me as the lawyer, my team, because they've had the experience in the space, they can at least provide some advice, some guidance that maybe makes you sleep a little bit better that night. Not because everything's fixed, but because you understand the roadmap, like what's going to come next. So There's a lot of value there. And I think that where people go awry is they forget that it's the client's case. It's their case. So I'm not saying that the client is going to tell you what to do, because you're the lawyer, and you have to ethically and morally and professionally stand the line, hold the line sometimes. Mm-hmm. But if the client really doesn't want to pursue other medical treatment, or really just wants to resolve the case, then your job is you can guide them and tell them the impact of their decisions. But if they want to close the case down, you tell them, okay, this is what we have to do it. Yep. We will do it. That's what you asked for. We're going to take these steps so we can, meet your request.
Yep.
It's their choice.
It's very interesting that you say that, because again, I think about, I wanted to do everything non-surgical before I would go have disc replacement surgery. And so right. I tried everything, and it was racking up the medical bills, which my lawyer was not very happy about. At the time, I remember him yelling at me, actually, and I'm like, I'm the victim, I'm in pain here, and I'm just doing what I can to feel better in my body, But anyway, getting neck shots and getting light therapy and all these different things, and it just wasn't working, And then what I would say too, and I'd love your opinion on this as a lawyer, but getting second opinions is so important too. And again, how that affects a case, I would love to hear your point of view on that. But I know for me, the first surgeon that I went to see when I decided, yep, I'm going to have disc replacement surgery, he's like, Christina, we're going to put a bracket in your neck and your spine, and you probably will never be more than 80%, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, that's terrifying, because at the time I'm in my 30s. So anyway, long story short, go to a second surgeon. He's like, nope, we have this new technology. We'll just literally replace the disc that's herniated, and you'll probably be
with the artificial disc.
Yeah. Yep. C5, C6 were replaced. Yeah. And I am literally 95%. So I'm very grateful for that, right? And I have a scar. This is a scar right here on my neck. But the reality is, I want people to know, how do you advocate for yourself when your lawyer may be saying this, okay, and you want to go that way because it's your health that's on the line? And also, what about second opinions? Just talk to me a little bit about your point of view on that.
Yeah, so I think you need, first of all, I don't think any lawyer should be directing a client to undergo invasive treatment that the client doesn't quite understand the ramifications. Doctors should be conveying to them the impact, because it's not about the case, because the case is just a blip in their life. What comes after? I tell clients all the time, we ain't rushing into lumbar surgeries and cervical surgeries, right? Backs and necks, because do you know what that's going to do to you down the road? Let's try the other things, unless you are in such a position where you are willing to go get that procedure just to get you out of the pain that you're in. Orthopedic injuries might be different, because when that happens, there really isn't another option. You probably need to go get the labrum repaired or the ACL repaired. That just is what it is. But there are a lot of options less invasive than getting the fusion or the disc replacement. So let's explore it. In terms of second opinions, I'm all for it. Because, and I tell my clients, remember, when you go see the neurosurgeon, they're still called the neurosurgeon. right? So although they might recommend conservative treatment, like the end of the day is probably going to be surgery if none of those things work. Like that's who you're going to see. So, and even the most conservative surgeons, they're in the field to perform surgery, right? Like you don't want to be the quarterback just practicing all day. Like you want to get in the game occasionally. Yeah. So don't be surprised if you get a surgical recommendation from them. But it doesn't mean you have to go do it.
That's right.
You just need to know what your options are, and then you have to decide, I don't know how bad you actually hurt. I just know what you tell me.
Yep. Everybody listen to Lee. Yeah, that's, again, just things we need to know. Things people need to know. Knowledge is power, and the more you understand and know, then you can make better informed decisions when you are in an accident. So, yeah.
100%.
Love it, Lee. So tell me, let's talk about the future. So short term, where is the Rudin Law Firm going? What is your vision for the next year? Where do you want to be 1 year from now?
Sure. Well, let's talk about 4 months from now, 3 months from now. We just bought a building. So this office is in the first suburb of New Orleans. We just bought a building in New Orleans that is under renovation. So we will have two, semi-local New Orleans offices. We've got a lawyer based in Texas. We have another one coming on board who is licensed in New York and New Jersey. So that just expands our footprint as to who we can help more locally. Right? I'm licensed in Louisiana and Texas. Josh is licensed in Texas. We got Matt in New York and New Jersey, and then soon to be Louisiana. So we can go East Coast, Gulf Coast, but we take cases on all over the country, and then we have partners in different states that case comes in. Okay, we'll find you somebody. You want to work with us. We want to work with you. We just want to find the right person. If we have to push it forward, that can actually execute, file the lawsuit, etc. So we've done that in a variety of states. We're going to keep growing. The more people you can help, the better you're doing. And so, maybe that means that eventually we decide, hey, we're going to scrutinize the cases a little bit more, be more selective. But right now, if we think it's a case we can work, if it's someone that wants our help, I'm honored by the fact that someone's called. They've seen our advertisements. They like our brand. They like what I'm saying. I want to try to meet that trust. I want to deliver for them because, this business only started because of organic referrals, and so the more that we can help people, the more they're going to tell their friends, their neighbors, and that growth will happen without all the marketing.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, congratulations on all your expansion, and it's happening very quickly. So again, everybody who is listening to this episode, if you do get in an accident or someone that's in an accident, you can always reach out to this firm here and you're in great hands. And so what does the next 3 to 5 years and beyond look like? What is your bigger mission for your firm? And is there anything else you want to do outside of the law?
Yeah, I like the idea that this brand can stretch nationally. I'm not saying it's a goal per se, but because of the way the brand is positioned and the way that the market is these days, like you can have clients and help people all across the country. So I like that conceptually. I joke that I love making the merch, and we have a store up on our website. You pay shipping, like we'll send you the shirt, we'll pay for the shirt. I think if people think the brand is cool and want to wear it, I think over time that'll have an impact in our growth. And so, we've got a couple of t-shirts up on our website, and if people want to hit the Get Rude store and get a shirt just for the cost of shipping, I'm happy to send it to you. That's a lot of fun for me. That's where I think we're going. We're going to focus on growing the firm, maybe have some tangential little business streams over time, but that's where we are.
I love it. Again, Lee, you're doing so many things right, in terms of building the brand that, again, is so recognizable and then expanding outside of the state of Louisiana. So kudos to you guys. And clearly you're doing a lot of things right, but we also know juggling entrepreneurship, business ownership, expansion geographically, and all the things, managing clients, it's a lot. And then we have AI and all the things happening in technology and business too. So how do you manage your time? Give us one tip on time management.
Don't manage your time. I don't know. No, honestly, I think one of the best things I've done recently is I hired an executive assistant. She's based in the Philippines, and her sole job is to manage my calendar and manage my inbox. And that way I am not a slave to the inbox. I'm not playing whack-a-mole, things come up. And so I've taken that and I've blocked my day, and I try to focus on the things I'm supposed to focus on during the blocks. And because I'm not getting distracted by the email, it has proven to be somewhat effective, right? It's still a work in progress. But, email, again, was supposed to be a tool, a communication tool. And it has become such a distraction that when you have to do that deep work and focus on things, like, you got to probably close the window, silence the phones. Otherwise, you're going to be pulled every which direction, at least mentally.
Yes. Again, great advice, because time management comes down to two things. Get an executive assistant to take away the low value tasks off your plate. And number two, like you said, time blocking. Time blocking is everything. So, well, we have covered a lot of amazing topics, a lot of really great insights in here for your colleagues and people in the legal industry, but also for the public. So thank you so much, Lee, for your time. I know time is money. So hope to do it again soon. And I do have a conference out in New Orleans later this year. So if I come, I'd love to meet you in person.
We'll get dinner, drinks. We do that well in New Orleans, right?
I can only imagine. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Lee, thanks again so much. We'll do it again soon. Take care.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.